Well, Stamford Bridge remains blue, but the Chelsea blue indeed, as Everton paid the Blues a visit there. Shaka Hislop, a 2-0 win for Tommy Tuchel once again, and his men, and yet another clean sheet. Amazing defensive record in this one, but Chelsea were looking quite good in attack for this one. But since it's a top four rival as well, how crucial was this for Chelsea to get this win?
Absolutely. The one thing you have to say about Everton under Carlo Ancelotti this season is that as far as the top four race goes, they just refuse to go away. Every time you kind of stop thinking that Everton have a chance, then all of a sudden, you look up and they're there. They're knocking on the door. They're in the top four, if even for a few hours. So I think this was a big one for Thomas Tuchel up against a very stubborn Everton. And in all honesty, as tests go, we can make the argument that Chelsea, this was their toughest test under Thomas Tuchel in the league at least. And they passed with flying colours. And they did nothing different to what you've seen them do ever since his arrival. They focused on possession. They made the ball their own. They defended resolutely. You see what Chelsea are or who they're trying to become under Thomas Tuchel. Now, we in the longer term, we'll talk about, maybe who comes in the summer, who leaves, how Chelsea shapes up differently. But right now, the plan, and he's effecting it with wonderful results, especially when you consider that this team largely isn't his own.
That's true. And one of the impacts that we know that Thomas Tuchel has had on this Chelsea team is just how solid defensively they have gotten. But tonight, though, Shaka, am I wrong in thinking I saw a bit more spark, a bit more efficiency there in attack? I mean, look at Kai Havertz. That seemed like he, was almost a whole new person. He didn't even want to come off when it was time for substitutes.
Yeah, that's the thing. And between Kai Havertz and Timo Werner, who just kind of give him the German link. All the speculation was Thomas Tuchel was brought in to get the best out of them. Now, you've seen both of them used and dropped and brought back in. You've seen them play well and then play a little bit indifferently. But I think this for me was Havertz's best performance in a Chelsea shirt against opposition that's near the top of the table. Okay, wasn't credited with the first goal. Had one ruled out for handball, but then he got brought down for the penalty. And just those runs from deep and the passes from deep in anticipation of that, and in reading what he was doing, I think it was a joy to behold. And if you're Kai Havertz, long may it continue, because this was as good a performance we've seen from him. And despite any disappointment leaving the field, while on it, you saw a sense of confidence from him that, again, I just don't think we'd seen from him since his arrival at Stamford Bridge.
So pretty much an almost perfect night, I suppose, for Chelsea. Everton, though, we'll talk about Jordan Pickford because we definitely have to big him up, knowing that it could have been more goals were it not for his brilliance. But Carlo Ancelotti, as we said, he has caused everyone to have us thinking of Everton as a top four team, or possibly even challenging for the title in another season or two. So what would he take from this and what would he want to improve?
Well, it was a tough day for Everton in so many respects. And listen, as much as Everton may have threatened, I never thought that Everton were quite good enough to finish in the top four, given what we've seen from a renewed Chelsea. And even with Leicester stuttering, they've given themselves a little bit of a cushion. Spurs are still there or thereabouts and knocking on that top four as well. I always felt that Everton would just miss out. And I think that was your big takeaway today, that this is a very good Everton team that will beat most. But just in terms of clearing that final hurdle, just being good enough or in the top four in the league, maybe they just aren't there just yet. I think as you are seeing Everton trending in the right direction, given what you've seen from them up front, though you didn't see a whole lot today, given what you see from them in midfield with the inclusion of James Rodriguez and the creativity you get from there. And given, I think, a back four organization, though, again, today they were exposed. But you mentioned Jordan Pickford and his performance, and even with the penalty that he conceded, I still think he was Everton's best player on the day. For me, he's the best goalkeeper that Ancelotti has at his disposal. And despite his flirtation, shall we call it, Olsen early in the season, I think Pickford has shown who's the number one, certainly for right now. As Ancelotti plots what's to come next to make them viable top four contenders, I, for one, listen, I understand the criticism around Jordan Pickford. I hear it. I just don't think that's a position he needs to address. Certainly not yet, anyway.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.